This is absolutely fantastic. This room is almost full. I can't believe it. I have been traveling across the province and doing these online workshops, pre-election workshops, and you guys are the best, filling up this room. Give yourselves a hand. That's fantastic. And I want to give a shout out to the folks online. Just so you know, this is probably the only time you're going to see me tonight, standing and looking in the camera. I'm kind of someone who walks around with the microphone, but just wanted to give a shout out from the folks online, and in particular, the watch party in New Denver. Yay! Give them a hand. Woohoo! All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Benty, and I jokingly refer to myself as a recovered politician. I did 12 years as an elected official, a couple terms on council, and a couple terms as mayor, and I left office in 2014. And I am still very passionate about local government. My academic background is as a social scientist, and so I'm very interested in how do groups of people work together? How do they make decisions? What's the difference between high-functioning teams and low-functioning teams? And how do you build high-functioning teams that are going to make good decisions to serve the community? So I love this work. I'm very passionate about local government, and so I'm really thrilled to be here, and I'm so pleased that you are here as well for this pre-election local government evening, this conversation. So this evening, I'll just kind of go over some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. This is really we're going to talk about what are the roles and responsibilities when it comes to local government. What is the role of an elected official versus the role of staff? You're also going to hear me talk about the truth serum as it relates to our infrastructure and the things that we can't see, the pipes under the ground and the roads and the things, the invisible things that provide services. And the reason for that is that my master's thesis was on asset management and community engagement. So I actually can't help but infuse that into the conversation. So you'll hear some talk about that tonight. And then what do you need to take into consideration as a candidate? What are the things that you want to, what do you want to reflect on as a candidate? But also, what do you want to reflect on as a voter? As a resident in your community, you are a shareholder of the services and the assets that provide services, and your elected officials, they represent you as the shareholder. And so the way you vote, your level of awareness when it comes to local government really matters. So I'm very, very pleased that you're here this evening. So my invitation to you is some of you might have come into the room with some preconceived notions about what local government's about, or what government's about. What do they actually? What can they do? What can't they do? What empowers them? What constrains them? And I'm hoping to maybe dispel some myths that people might have. But it's really meant to be educational, conversational, and hopefully inspirational. I don't want to scare anybody from running, and instead I want you to think about what is it going to take? What do I need to consider as a potential candidate? So that's my intention. I'm going to be asking some reflective questions as well. What are some things that you need to reflect on as you consider putting your name forward for public office, for local office? I'll tell you what this isn't, and that is, it is not an all candidates forum. So if I ask some questions, please don't get up and say why you're running for office. That's why it's the invitation to be curious. this isn't an all candidates forum, but it's also not meant to be, like, I'm not going to be able to answer community specific questions. You have elected officials and staff that are going to be able to answer those questions at a different time. This is really about, it's some general education on the role of local government, and also things to think about as a candidate about the system, how it works, and but I'm not going to be able to answer specific questions. And so my why I do this work is, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, about asset management being a passion of mine. I think we've kicked the can too far down the road when it comes to investing in infrastructure, and so many communities are now taking this seriously. And they need to engage with their community and have conversations about where should we be investing our dollars when it comes to the assets and services. Some communities are in better shape than others, but many communities, we need to think about what matters. And so from my perspective, I want to see less kicking the can down the road and putting that burden on future generations, but creating a mindset of generational equity. Also, I think we should have better conversations collectively. There is a lot of us and them. There's a lot of mistrust when it comes to government, and so government ends up getting lumped into the same pot. The absence of trust, the absence of healthy dialogue, and I think we can do better when it comes to having conversations with people that have different views than us and have different perspectives than us, and so I want to see us cultivate a healthier narrative around local government. I mean, you live in your community because you care about your community. And the people that serve as elected officials, they all also deeply care about the community. And everybody's got different interpretations of how that shows up. But I think we can do a better job collectively of reducing the us and them, because it's not doing us any favors right now, that's for sure. It doesn't take long. You just open up social media and you're like, oh boy, it's pretty terrifying. So I want to see us have a healthier narrative. That's my why. All right. Maybe a few of you, if you're new and this is the first time, this is actually the third time that I've come here to host this workshop, and there's lots of familiar faces, but there's lots of new faces as well. And so maybe some of the people that this is your first time, what are you hoping to take away from this? I know it's a big room. All right. Yes. Yes. So for the folks online, want to find out who might be running. Yeah. Yeah. And you want to learn something. Good. Awesome. That's great. I've heard that in my travels. I've heard that several times. I want to see who's thinking about putting their name forward. And hopefully, like I said, this is not just for potential candidates, but also for voters, for citizens, so that you can make it a more informed choice. So, anybody else? What are you hoping to take away? This is your first time here, and you're hoping to... Yes. Awesome. So for the folks on that are online, just gaining some information, learning about what is the process, how does it work, how does the system work, and I'm really hoping that you'll walk away with a little more clarity this evening. So, yeah. Anybody else want to share? Yes.
I can help more in general, so I think this is a good way to find out about that.
Excellent. Yeah, good. and hopefully you people online just want to, again, some general information. How can I be part of a healthier system? Excellent. That's great. So what do you think some of the common misperceptions are about elected officials or being elected? Yes, and I'm going to bring the microphone around just so that the folks online can hear.
I think one of the misperceptions is around jurisdictional power and what you can actually change with different levels of government.
Yeah, that's a big misperception, and we're going to hopefully again do some myth busting. Anybody else? What else do you think is some of the? It was said. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Why taxes are so high and who you pay what to who.
Okay. Why are taxes so high?
Christina, we also have one online, which was, I think that people might imagine that people on council make a big paycheck.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the slides will go over some of the most common questions, and one of the questions I hear is like, do I get paid? And I'll tell you, you'll never get paid if you're good. You'll never get paid what you're worth. If you're not, I'll stop there.
The difference between councillors and trustees on a school board.
Yes. Okay. Interesting. I don't think I will answer that question tonight, probably. But I'll try at the end. So if I don't, bring it back up again. Somebody else had their hand up here.
I think a lot of people don't know that the feds have all the money, the province makes the rules, and we have the problems.
There you go. We're definitely going to cover that. That's excellent. I hope you guys got that. All right. So this evening, again, there's many familiar faces in the room, and some of you have served for a long time, and some of you, again, this is relatively new. And so one of the things that I do want to say is some of the material we're going to be covering this evening is actually quite, we're going to go back to basics. And we're going to start with the basics. So just because basics have a tendency to be simple, but not easy, right? That's why I like this cartoon here, right? Is sometimes the principles involved in good governance, just like in health, are actually pretty simple, and yet we often ignore them. So we are going to talk about some of the basics of local government. And we'll start off with the mission. You know, it's interesting because when I go in to work with an organization and I'm doing I'm doing some strategic planning, I'm working with a nonprofit organization, and my first question is, why do you exist? Like, what is the purpose of your organization? Again, it seems like a really simple question. I'm fascinated sometimes by how it doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue of the folks that are involved. So it's a very simple question, not always easy to answer, right? So why does local government exist? In its most basic form, local government is a service provider. In its simplest form. So in other words, it exists to provide services. So safe, sustainable, secure, cost-effective services. So I want to turn on the tap. I want to have clean, clear drinking water every single time. I want to flush the toilet, and I want to have it disappear every time. I want to put my garbage out at the end of the driveway, if that's a service, or my recycling, and I want it to disappear. I want to show up at my rec center and have them open the hours that they say they're going to be open. Again, all this is it's fairly simple in its thinking. It was interesting, I was working in a community not that long ago where their sewer system failed. And so for 12 hours, the residents in their area could not flush the toilet, could not take a shower, couldn't run their dishwasher or their washing machine. And so all of a sudden, the things that you took for granted, it's like they're highlighted, right? All of a sudden, you're paying attention. And local government, it really exists to provide services. That is its ultimate, very simple but very complex mission. One of the things that I would say about, so this particular image here, it's from Prince George. It was designed by Julie Rogers, who was a communication specialist in Prince George, and essentially it's gone viral. So I'm using Prince George's because I couldn't cover all of your communities. My guess is your different communities already have an image like this. They have a who does what. And I think it's important to take a look at that. And if you are going to be a candidate, to study who does what, who's responsible for what in your community. The reason this matters is that exactly what was said earlier, and that is there is a misperception about the jurisdictional boundaries and who's responsible for what. So I can tell you a bit of a story. When I was mayor, the school, the high school was making some changes to the French immersion program. And people in my community were up in arms. They were very upset about that. And my phone started ringing off the hook. And I had to tell the people that were phoning me, in a very polite way, of course, yes, I appreciate your concern. However, you have elected officials that make decisions about the school system and what goes on there. That's not our jurisdiction. Yes, but if this program doesn't run properly, it's going to impact economic development. Yes, I understand. However, the temptation to get involved in something that is outside your jurisdictional responsibility can be very, very tempting, and it's one of the biggest sticking points for elected officials. I'll tell you a couple other stories. When I was sitting on the regional district board, we had a presentation from some very well-educated researchers and doctors that were concerned about GMOs in the CSRD area. And they wanted us to pass a resolution saying that we would be a GMO-free area. And it was something that was very emotional. The presentation was there was good information, it was excellent, and the temptation would have been to pass the resolution. And I had to say, wait a second, if we pass this resolution, we're actually telling the community that we have the power to enforce that, and we don't. It's a provincial issue. The reason that I tell you that story is not so that you can weaponize, well, it's not our jurisdiction, we're not dealing with it. The reason I tell you that story is because I think it's actually important to understand what local government's responsible for and where the jurisdictional boundaries are. You can influence change at other levels of government, but you don't necessarily have direct control. And the reason that matters is that when you have candidates or elected officials that make promises about things outside their jurisdiction, that creates mistrust. I think we need to have more honest conversations about, yes, this is a concern, and maybe we're going to write a letter, do a presentation, but we may not be able to do anything about that. And it allows for more honest conversations. The other thing I think that it's important to recognize with this is that according to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which represents local governments right across the country, for every tax dollar that you pay, so every your your sales tax, your property tax, your income tax, all the different taxes that you pay that are kind of invisible, right? That you don't necessarily pay attention to. 50 cents goes to the feds. 42 cents goes to the province. And approximately 8 cents goes to the local government. And yet, local government owns approximately 65% of the infrastructure that provides services. So you can see there's a little bit of tension there, right? Again, this is not meant to discourage anybody, but it's just a bit of a reality check about where those responsibilities lie. And here's the beautiful thing. What local government is responsible for has an impact on people's daily life. It makes our communities better than we can ever imagine. Think about, I've done a lot of traveling in the East and West Kootenays over the years, because again, I was an elected official a long time ago, and spent a lot of time in what was called the AKBLG area, and traveling around. And it seemed like every time I would visit the different communities, I'd be like, oh, look, it's looking better. It's looking cleaner. There's more amenities. There's more stuff. It's getting more attractive. There's more signage. There's more trails, and right? And so the decisions that you get to make at the local level really, they contribute to the well-being of your community. So they matter. So it's important to not use the not our jurisdiction as a weapon. It's not meant to be used as a weapon. What can you do, and how can you influence change in a positive way in your community? Yeah.
So we just had a comment online about it. Can you make any comment on how communities can work through UBCM to be able to have impact on greater issues than just at the community level?
Yeah, I'll speak really briefly to that. And certainly if you're elected, you will get familiar with all of the different organizations that represent local government. So the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, they represent the regional districts in the province, and we'll talk about what the role of regional districts are shortly. They represent all the local governments, all the municipalities, all of the regional districts in the province. And so every year there is an annual meeting where communities can bring forward resolutions on issues of common concern. And they bring those forward to the province. And then the province has the option of deciding whether they're going to how they're going to respond to those different issues. So if you are elected, you will have the opportunity to really familiarize yourself. The Union of British Columbia Municipalities also provide professional development opportunities as well as advocacy opportunities for local governments. In some cases, the resolutions have been very successful and have actually meant meaningful change. But I guarantee you, it takes a long time and a lot of lobbying, and that's based on experience. I'm working with the province right now on respectful conduct legislation for the province, and this was asked for in, I think probably 2016, so that's 10 years ago. It was asked for. There was some research done by the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, and now we expect to have that respectful conduct legislation. So know that UBCM is a powerful lobbying organization to lobby the provincial government, and things take time. So that it's a both and. It's not either or. So when I was mayor, I was going to make myself a shirt that said, I paid all my taxes, and all I got were these lousy services. And then on the back, I was going to have a list of all the services that that my local government provides, because local government's taxed to the service they provide. And one of the things I would encourage you to do, whether you're thinking of running for office or just like as an engaged citizen, familiarize yourself with the services that your local government provides. And you can do that through reading the annual general reports. You can read that, you can go through, if as a candidate, I highly suggest that you read through some of the planning documents, the annual general report, the asset management plan, all of those things are online. The master plans, even if you just read the executive summaries of the different, you've probably got a recreation master plan, a transportation master plan, all of those plans, they represent significant research, public engagement, and they provide you with a bit of a roadmap when it comes to what does our community actually want? What did they say that they want? And what happens with a master plan, of course, is that it is full of your community's dreams and aspirations, and then you as an elected official get to determine, okay, let's prioritize these. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is, instead of reinventing the wheel, read through the planning documents, the OCP, annual general report, the asset management plan, all the master plans, and familiarize yourself with those so that you can speak in your community with a level of, again, engagement and understanding about what your local government provides. And every local government provides different services and service levels based on needs, population, your proximity. Like in Golden, I'll tell you another funny story. This involves Roslyn. When I was on council, I had a presentation from a group that said, you guys are wasting a whole bunch of money. Look at the way Roslyn's spending, look at their budget. It's way more efficient. And I had to explain to them, it's like, okay, Roslyn provides different service levels than we do in Golden. And so to take out, people were comparing apples to oranges instead of having a meaningful dialogue. So thanks for letting me pick on you, Roslyn. It wasn't really picking. All right, so local government in many ways, for all the services that it provides, it's kind of under the radar. And one of the things I would say is local government does a poor job of bragging about how it makes your life better. And it operates a little bit like a magic coffee table.
Babe, did you say you were going to make dinner? I couldn't remember. What?
I just wish you'd take some initiative and cook your own dinner for once. I've been at work too, and now I get to come home and pack the dishwasher and then unpack the dishwasher and cook dinner and put the washing on. And you know what? I can't continue to live like this because it's not me.
Hey, relax. It's going to be all right.
How?
Here, I'll just show you. Okay, I've been doing this since we moved in. See this basket thing? I don't know how it happens, if it's the house or what, but any dirty clothes you put in this basket, somehow the next day they're just clean, folded, and in a perfect pile on your bed.
You're not serious.
I couldn't believe it at first either, but it just keeps happening. That's why I didn't tell you. I didn't want to jinx it.
You are insane.
Try it, you'll see. Unless it's only chosen me. See, I don't know.
I can't do this.
No, wait. There's other things too. Plates, cutlery, pizza boxes, dirty tissues, anything you leave on this coffee table just vanishes overnight. I mean, sometimes I'll see how far I can push this thing and I'll just leave shit everywhere. And then sure enough, the next day, it's all gone. It's just vanished. It's magic. No, she wouldn't have left me. This is what I think happened. I heard her get up in the middle of the night to get a drink or something. She must have fallen onto the magic coffee table and just vanished.
Are you insane?
No, he's not insane.
I've got the same coffee table at home.
Do you see why I like that video? It's kind of a good, it's a bit of a good metaphor for local government, right? Like I said, you turn on your tap, clean, clear drinking water comes out. You put your garbage at the end of the driveway, disappears. You wake up in the morning, the snow's cleared, right? And so we're pretty fortunate to live where we do and have the services that we do, and we just kind of take them for granted, and in some ways, so we should, right? We want those things we want our elected officials and our city staff to be looking after those things. So if staff deliver the services, then why do we need elected officials? If we have staff, they're the ones that. One thing that's important to recognize, of course, is that elected officials do not deliver the services. They're not the ones that are making sure that the recreational facilities open. Yes.
It's the representation of the community to direct staff of what we want.
Yeah, you're bang on. Yeah. What does our community want and need, right? Essentially that's what you're doing as an elected official, is representing the community on what they want and need in terms of services and service levels. Well, some of the narrative, of course, I know I was elected in a narrative kind of like this, right? It was like, well, you better get elected and get those taxes in line, right? I pay all these taxes, and what do I even get for services? I have no idea, right? That's a bit of a narrative. And what are the staff doing anyway, right? They're wasting time and just spending money. That's another narrative that's very common in local government. I wish somebody had told me when I was running for office that you are not the complaint department or the wish list holder. That's not your job. Do more with less, and then stop making decisions behind closed doors. That was the other thing I heard a lot of, is that, they're just making decisions behind closed doors. And what's important to recognize, particularly with that one, is that local government is the most transparent level of government. The staff ensure that decisions are made in the public arena, and you have access to those decisions. The only way that your elected officials can go in camera is for land labor law to protect the corporation. So the reason I say that is because I have seen elected officials, or I've seen candidates run on a platform of no decisions will be made behind closed doors. That can't happen. You will put the local government at risk when you leak information. It is designed to protect the citizens and protect the corporation. So it's another mythology that you'll often hear during elections. So stop it. Don't let that happen. What you're really elected to do, and you said that, it's represent the community. And I would say you're representing people that haven't even been born yet. That don't live in your community now. You're going to be making decisions as an elected official to plan for the future of your community and design it in the way that you want. What's the kind of community that we want? Your job is to really think strategically and plan wisely for the future. So here's a couple things that, actually I forgot about this slide here. This goes back to the wishes and complaints. Lots of wishes, lots of complaints. And when you have limited resources, you need leaders that are going to be able to just make decisions. Because if there was endless resources, you could have whatever you wanted as a community. You could put underground geothermal underneath the ground and have the snow melt the second it fell on the ground. I'm just making that up. I doubt you could have that, but when, as communities, part of leadership is your elected officials have to make decisions about how they're going to use their limited resources, and their funding streams are taxation, user fees, and then intergovernmental transfers. And the resources are pretty small. That 8 cents, it's pretty small. So when there's more wishes and complaints than there are resources, you need leaders to make those difficult decisions. And that can be very challenging because you can be guaranteed you're going to disappoint some people sometimes. So I loved what you said about representing the community on what does our community want and need now and into the future, and at what level. But I think that we've also not really talked about what services are we willing and able to pay for in the future as well. And that is, so those two questions, I guarantee you, if you spent your time in office with those two questions at the forefront, you would leave your community in a better position after the 4 years. And a legacy of really good, sound decision-making. I worked with a community up in the Northwest Territories where they got some funding for a large water treatment plant. But they couldn't afford to run the water treatment plant. So they had this big, beautiful water treatment plant, but they didn't have the population to sustain it or the tax dollars to be able to sustain it. So making decisions about assets and services so that they're sustainable. And that can be tough. Yep. Yes, often in conflict with one another. Yep. So what do elected officials do? They actually don't do anything. Their job is to think. So their job is to think strategically and have an overarching understanding of what is the system, what is the system designed? How is it designed? How do you make decisions? What do we have the RAR stands for, what do we have the responsibility to do? What do we have the authority to do? And what do we have the resources to do? Because even if you have the resources, if you don't have the authority, you can't actually do anything. You could have lots of money in the bank, but if you don't have the authority, then you actually can't. You can't do anything. So you need to have the responsibility, the authority, and the resources. You also want to think strategically about where's our community going. Like, do we want to grow up? Do we want to grow out? Do we want to see more parks? Do we want to see what kind of housing options are? So land use planning, right? Emergency planning. What kind of service levels do we want? Do we want to pick up, are we picking up recycling once a week or twice a week or bi-weekly? Is garbage bi-weekly? Like all of these decisions around services and service levels. But where are we going as a community? How do we want to grow? And how do we want to develop in such a way that will allow the kind of growth and development and prosperity that our community wants? Elected officials, and this is so important, they provide direction through bylaws, resolutions, and policy. And they are a collective decision-making body. So the reason that this matters is if you as a candidate are making promises about things that you will do or not do, you are a part of a collective decision-making body. And so it's important to recognize that you have to convince the rest of your compadres to agree with you. You have to make sure that it's legal, that you have the authority and the resources. So there's layers of complexity. So I caution you against making promises as a candidate about things that you will be able to do, because you may not be able to do them. You also have to attend meetings and participate in discussions and vote. You have a responsibility to vote. And then you have a responsibility to, once the decision is made and it's been voted on, you have a responsibility to respect the process. So even if you don't get your own way or you disagree with a decision that's made, you can say, I voted differently, but this is the process, and I respect the process. it makes a big difference how you communicate to your residents, to your shareholders, about how you make decisions and how you respect the process. And staff's job is to carry out, like, the decision that's made. It's carried out, even if you disagreed. And so how you behave when you don't get your own way is really, very much about leadership. To ensure accountability, transparency, and of course, long-term financial sustainability. So making sure that you're making decisions that you can afford over the long term, and ensuring that accountability to your shareholders, and that you're communicating what you're doing. Of course, respect and follow the law. And again, that seems obvious, but you would be surprised the number of times that some elected officials want to defy the law and ignore the law, or and just don't respect the actual process, like leaking confidential material, that sort of thing. So respecting the law when it comes to conflict of interest, and once you're elected, you'll learn all of those guardrails. You'll be the staff will provide you with that framework. And lastly, your job is to engage and educate your shareholders, your residents, your community, your local, the people that care about your community. And oftentimes I notice that elected officials tend to leave all the education, or tend to leave all the communication to the staff. But it's important as a politician that you provide a rationale for the decision that you made, and that you own that. It shouldn't actually be the staff that are wearing those decisions. So because I've seen this happen before, where the staff get thrown under the bus for a decision that the elected officials had to make. So taking ownership over your decisions and then articulating the rationale. So those are all the cool things that you get to do as an elected official. And you're really in a partnership. I think it's so important to see yourself as the staff are one side of the coin and elected officials are the other, but you're on the same team. It's the same mission. So what does staff get to do? Their job is to act. So they protect the corporation by managing risk. They have to meet legislative requirements. That's important to understand. They have to follow the law, and they have to make sure their job is to protect you and make you look good as elected officials. So they know and understand the law, and they'll make sure that and they'll help you with that. That's what they're there for. Their job is also to provide you with fearless advice, right? And they're educated, they're experts in their field. Their job is to provide that advice so that you can make good decisions. Some of the reports that you will read as an elected official, and I suggest that you are attending, like if you're going to run for council or board, attend board meetings, read the package, familiarize yourself with the information that's being provided to you, and so that you're familiarizing yourself with the different issues that your current elected officials are grappling with, which sometimes some of those reports represent like weeks, months, sometimes years worth of information. They also identify policy gaps. So for example, if your current snow clearing policy is outdated, part of staff's job is to bring it to the elected officials and say, okay, here's what we're doing now when it comes to snow clearing. Here's what it costs. Do you want to increase the service? Do you want to decrease the service? Do you want to maintain the service? It was interesting. So when I was mayor, and this is kind of a different sort of dilemma, but we were looking at our snow clearing budget and our snow clearing policy, and we decided that maybe we would reduce the taxes on our snow clearing, and reduce the cost on our snow clearing. And when we were discussing with staff, one of the things, it was kind of interesting because our staff, we have rock star snow clearing in Golden. and the staff were clearing the windrows on people's driveways, and it was so great. Everybody loved it. And one of the things that was really interesting is that the manager of public works said, our staff gets so many accolades from their high quality snow clearing that if you reduce the level of service, you'll probably get pushed back from the residents, but you also might kind of have an impact on like the staffing morale. And that was something we hadn't thought of. We were just like, oh, let's focus on how we can save money, right? But it was like, oh, this might actually have an impact on the staff's experience. So we kept our snow clearing. It's rock solid. And their job is to operationalize the direction. So staff, the elected officials are the what and the why. Staff are the who and the how. They're the ones that operationalize those policies, those bylaws, those resolutions, and they deliver the services with the resources that are provided. So that's their job. So elected officials, really, they're elected by the residents. They set policy. They don't direct individual staff. That's important to know. I've seen elected officials, or I've seen candidates run on a platform of they can't wait to tell the Public Works Department how to do their job, and you don't get to do that. And I'll just talk a little bit about the system right now. And that is, as you have one employee, and that one employee is the employee of the council or the board, and so they are responsible for implementing those decisions and advising the council or the board on administration, finance, and policy implications. So they oversee all of the operations. So again, I think it's important just to understand a little bit about how the system works. And then every local government has different administrative departments that deliver services and have, may have anywhere from 1 to X number of employees, but they all here's some sample of some of the departments. I want to talk a little bit about the role of the mayor really briefly. Mayor is the team lead. Their job is to represent the will of council out in the public to other levels of government. So their job is to be the conduit and be the team lead and to speak on behalf of council, and then speak on behalf of the community when they're outside of the community. But what's important to recognize is that the mayor has one vote, and the only power that they have is the power of their influence, not the power of their vote. They will naturally have a closer relationship with the CAO, but they can't go to the CAO or to the staff and exert undue influence. So it's important to know. I mean, lots of times I had people in my office and they're, telling me, oh, you need to go and do this or that, or you need to tell the staff this or that. And it was like, and then I'd have to explain that's not how the governance system works. That would be a disaster if that's what was happening. So council sets the vision. The CAO is the one who determines the how, and then the staff carry it out. They carry out the work. So again, super simple concept, just not easy. That's all. It's complex. It's got layers of complexity to it. This is a really good cheat sheet here, right? And if you look in the middle, it's about that in the middle. It's about working together. Right, the staff have a different role than the elected officials do, and they have a governance role. Staff has an operational role, an administrative role, and it's all about sustainability, and it's all about thriving as a community. So the system is designed really well. It just gets messy sometimes when it comes to people. But it is, I wanted to emphasize this, and that is it's one team, one mission, and you are in a partnership, not a battle with the staff. So again, this really matters because running on a platform of saying you're going to get elected so you can kick those bums out of the city hall or town hall and fire the staff and get rid of them. That is an unwise narrative. The staff have a public service bargain. They deliver on the services that the elected officials have determined that that the organization is going to deliver on. And so no matter who's on the board and council, the staff commit to working with them and helping them look good. And when you go in with that mindset, it makes, again, a really big difference because you've got a healthier narrative. I think sometimes contrarians think they think well, it's like I'm going to be the one that stirs the pot all the time. Just make sure you're stirring the pot about ideas, not people, right? So good governance it's relational, it's visionary, it's strategic, it's curious, it's open-minded, it's decisive and courageous. And I would say good governance is self-aware. So those are some of the qualities that I think really matter when it comes to good governance. Because you get to design the future that you want for the community. That's the goal. What is the future that we want? All right, so I have done, again, a lot of talking, so I'm going to turn the floor over to you and want to hear from you. What are some of the leadership qualities? Like when you think about elected leaders and leadership as a concept, what are some of the competencies that are important to you? Yeah, public speaking. Actually, that is I agree. I never even thought about that. But if you can't get your ideas across, if you can't articulate the rationale for a decision that you make, so if you're not a good public speaker, that's okay. You can still be an elected official, but commit to learn how to articulate a position at the table. Commit to learning to that. Everybody can learn public speaking skills. So thank you. I like that. Open-minded. Yeah. Not empty-minded, open-minded, right? You want to have an open mind to different perspectives.
We had online here too, approachability and accountability.
Yes. Yeah. Approachability. Thank you. Thank you, people online.
So yeah, public listening I think is a big one. I mean, the ability to talk, but also the ability to listen and to not have an ego, to be able to work with everyone and not think you're the best around.
Yeah, that's a really important one as well, because sometimes you do see elected officials, particularly, well, I'm going to say this, sometimes mayors, and I can say that because I was a mayor, and I'll tell you from my experience, you get treated differently. I'd walk in the room and people are like, oh my gosh, there's the mayor. And it was like, but it's just me. It's just Christina. And you can't get enamored with the title. George Cuff, who's one of my favorite local government gurus, he said, you go from your worship to your wash up in one day. And he said, and don't you forget it. It was really good advice. I've got a hand up here and then a hand.
Confidence.
Yeah. Yes. Confidence. Yeah. Confidence in to be able to articulate a position.
Integrity and the ability to collaborate.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes, integrity and the ability to collaborate. Yeah, because it's all about collaboration. One of the things that I would say is local government is very relational by nature. And so being able to collaborate, build relationships, you can get way more done by building relationships. Yes. Yeah. And I would say that is advice for life, isn't it? How many times many times do we listen with the desire to respond? And that can be tough in a council chambers or in a boardroom to actually get curious. Like, that's a leadership competency. Yes.
I would say consistency. So when you have a stance or something that you're putting forward, that it doesn't change according to who you're talking to today.
Yeah, and that's a balancing act, because consistency when it comes to representing your values and who you are, but also being open-minded and willing to change your mind in the light of new information, to go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And that's a different perspective.
Christina, can we take two online here?
Yes.
We've got the ability to honor and respect points of different views from their own, as well as passion for the community and for local government.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Open and transparent communication. Open and transparent communication.
Yes, open and transparent communication. Again, all of these things are actually really easy to say out loud, and sometimes they're a little more difficult to actually execute on. So, got one back here.
Yeah. I would just say knowing where your weaknesses and insecurities lie.
Yes.
They'll show up at a table if you're not aware of them, and they'll be very detrimental. So I think a good leader knows themselves well and can work through that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the reason I think that matters is sometimes you will have your boardroom or your council chambers filled with sometimes like people that are really upset. And if you are in a state of fight or flight, like if you're a natural fighter and you go into fight, right, then you've stopped listening. Your prefrontal cortex goes offline. Or if you freeze or flee, disappear, then you're not listening either, and you're making decisions for people pleasing. Yeah, understanding your brain and self-awareness, absolutely key. Yeah.
One of the things when I think about all of these comments is not misrepresenting your community, not misrepresenting the needs of the people who elected you, and like taking that seriously for me is quite important as an elected leader.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what is interesting to me, again, all of these leadership competencies that you're talking about, you will have, if you're elected, you will have the opportunity to either embody them and learn how to do them, or you can reject that. And that is not in service of your community when that happens. Yes.
Being prepared.
Yes. Oh gosh, we're going to talk about that. Absolutely. Come prepared to make a decision, and then prepared to again, be open-minded based on the information and the dialogue. Yeah. Yes.
I think one of the things that I recognized over the last 4 years is, we're all neighbors of our stakeholders. We go to dinner parties, our friends are in this community. And so I think one of the challenges for elected officials is not to let unpopular decisions get in the way of making the right decisions. And that's very difficult when you're going to be, all of our taxes, my taxes go up when taxes go up, equally as my friends. And but I think that's a real challenge for folks, especially for most of us living in small communities, to not let that public perception or knowing that it's not going to be a popular decision get in the way of making the right decision for who we represent.
So I would just say conflict resolution and conflict management. Conflict isn't always bad. Sometimes that's where the best ideas come from. So being able to manage that conflict effectively is super important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can expect tension, and you can expect conflict, and you can expect polarizing ideas and perspectives. And it doesn't mean it's bad. And learning that was one of my experience again as mayor. So naturally, I like it when everybody gets along and everybody's, warm and friendly, and learning to be okay in a room with tension and not trying to resolve it too soon was actually something I had to learn as an elected official, particularly as mayor. So, yeah. Anybody else want to chime in? Awesome, thank you. Those were great. And actually, this goes back to what you were saying a little bit. Have some self-awareness. What's your own relationship to conflict? What happens to you when things get crunchy, right? Where do you go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? And when your prefrontal cortex goes offline, right? When you get activated sometimes. So learning that self-awareness. How do I calm myself down so that I can access the wisest part of me to make those decisions? So, any questions so far? Sure. Yep. Okay. I will, what I'll do is I will put it into a PDF, and whoever wants it is gonna have to track it down.
We'll figure out how to post it online.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe getting email addresses or putting it online or something like that. Yes. I also have some handouts as well. One is on a leadership mindset versus a political mindset. Some of you have copies. I don't have copies for everyone. That will also be made available, as well as questions you can ask your candidates. Those handouts will also be made available to you. So thank you for asking. Anybody else? Question? And again, for the folks online, I'm going to make sure that you're asking using the microphone.
So I want to ask you about your advice in regards to social media. There's a landscape of negativity, trolling, and a lot of adversity. How to respond to that? Are you proactive? Do you push info? Do you engage with the trolls? Like, what kind of modality do you look at that whole world in?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'll share a little bit about my experience and how I dealt with it. But I do want you to know that the landscape has changed; it's amped up a lot. There's a couple things that I would say. Number one, I think social media is a really powerful tool. I don't think we should run away from it. It is. It's a powerful tool, and so see it as a tool. On the other hand, it can get messy and ugly really quickly. So one of the things that I would do when I was mayor is, if there was some rumors floating around and things that were being said, one of the things that I did is I would say, hey, have you heard a rumor about this or that? Here's my phone number. Here's my email. Here are my office hours. I'll talk to anybody, right? And so, in a sense, it brought the temperature down a little bit. I think sometimes that, and other people might have different advice, but I think sometimes just offering to meet with people can sometimes bring the temperature down. The other thing I would do, and some of you who have heard me speak before will be familiar with this story, I used to, as mayor, I would, if somebody was talking smack on the community page, I'd phone them. Because it's, we live in small communities. And I think one-on-one conversations are very powerful. And I think we underestimate, we rely so heavily on social media that sometimes we forget that that there are people and that you can have conversations and that can influence change quite powerfully. So I would say, hey, it's Mayor Christina Benti. I don't think you have all the information. This might help. I just, if you're willing, I can share some more information that might enlighten you. And then sometimes people would take off their comments or they would apologize online. And but what it did is it spread the rumor that if you talk smack on Facebook, that the mayor was going to phone you. So. So I think social media is a powerful tool. I also think that this is my other philosophy about this, and that is everyone complains about social media, right? And it's probably 5 to 10% of the population that is that's taking up tons and tons of rent on social media. And so again, if you look at the 10-80-10 rule, right? 10% of the population, you're never going to make them happy. That's all there is to it. The other 10%, and I kind of fall into this, really hard to tick them off, right? It takes a lot of work to make them angry and upset. And then you've got the 80%. Wherever you pay attention, they're going to go. So focus on what you're doing well. Highlight what local government's doing well, what you're doing well, the kind of the things that your organization is doing in a positive way. So this is not a fulsome advice. I know that, again, there's different issues, but don't be afraid and don't tolerate bad behavior. That's a long-winded answer, so thanks. Anybody else? Any other questions? Any questions from the people online?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Are you getting out of this what you need so far? Yeah? Okay. Okay, just checking. Yes.
I understand that we talked a little bit about what makes a good leader, and I understand that candidates and good leadership come hand in hand, but I was wondering from your perspective, what kind of things make a good candidate?
Well, I'm going to talk about the deadly sins of candidates, so that'll fit right into that. So hang in there, and if I don't answer that question well enough, we'll go back to it, okay? Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. All right, so I do briefly want to touch on the system. And the reason that it's important to recognize is that the province, we often hear local government's a creature of the province. Well, they get their legislative authority from the province. So their local government is not considered a level of government, even though we use the term local government. So they get their legislative power from the province through the Community Charter and the Local Government Act. So just a little fact. So if you're interested, and some people love that stuff, I spent 12 years as an elected official and did not read the Community Charter or the Local Government Act. I read parts of them, but your staff know that document inside and out. So. British Columbia, interestingly enough, has a pretty good system. It has 27 regional districts and 161 municipalities. I think Saskatchewan and Alberta have at least twice as many municipalities. Interestingly enough, some of those municipalities are dissolving because they're tiny little communities that actually can't afford to stay alive. I was working up in Greenview, a municipality up in northern Alberta, where Grand Cache was. And Grand Cache, they built the community to last 25 years. They built their assets for 25 years. So when those 25 years were up, they could no longer afford to replace all the assets. So they had to dissolve and be taken over by their municipal district government. So it was kind of interesting. So our system in BC is actually I think it's pretty good. It's a pretty good system. Regional districts provide local government services and governance for unincorporated areas. Regional districts they provide region-wide services, as you can see, electoral area specific services, neighborhood specific services, and then interjurisdictional services. Again, pretty simple, but actually quite complex. At the end of the day, though, for regional directors, the principles are the same. Stewardship, oversight, good governance, fostering economic development, and the well-being, social and environmental well-being of the community. So same kind of principles in terms of good governance, and that they're guided by the Local Government Act. And then Municipalities, it's the community charter, but it also says the same thing. It's all about stewardship, good governance, providing services and providing stewardship, and fostering the economic, social, and environmental well-being of the community. So, any questions about the system, which I may or may not be able to answer?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just curious. So, the city of Nelson, for example, is incorporated. Is it also part of the regional district?
All municipalities are part of the regional district, part of the surrounding regional district as well. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Ideally, you have a good relationship with your surrounding regional districts so that you can share services. It's very cost effective to share those services. For example, in our community, we have an arena that is operated by the town staff, but it is owned by the regional district, and we pay for that. We pay for that facility along with the regional government. Yes.
And we're a voting member on that table, at that table as well. And depending on the vote, we may or may not have more weight.
And that is one thing that if you are elected, you will learn about the whole regional government system and the weighted vote and the budgeting. It's super interesting, actually, at the regional district level. So that'll be, thank you.
How old are that act and that charter, and how often do they change?
So the good question. Okay, can you answer that question, Chris? I don't know, because I think I might make something up.
I think I can make stuff up too. There's just been a few small changes to the community charter recently, but otherwise the structure was built, I think, early 2000s or late 90s was adopted, and the Local Government Act is woefully outdated.
Yeah.
And they've been talking about updating that. And so Local Government Act generally looks more at the regional district related matters, and then the community charter was created and spun off to look more focused on municipal related matters.
Yeah, the community charter. So I was elected in 2002, and it wasn't very old. So I think you're right. I think it's the late 90s, and it gets updated minusculely on a periodically. And we will. So when we see this respectful conduct legislation come online, there will be some changes to the community charter, but they're fairly minor. And you're right. The Local Government Act is outdated. Oh, somebody's looking it up. Oh, okay. There you go. There's something for you to do a little research on. That's not a question I'll probably remember the answer to. Somebody else asked me. So here's some questions that you might be thinking about as a candidate that might come to mind. How much time can I realistically expect this role to take? One of the things that I think that would be really worthwhile is sit down with a former elected official and find out how much time and what the job is like. As either an existing elected official or a former elected official. There's meetings on a regular basis, there's committee meetings, there's professional development opportunities. When you live in a small community, it can feel like you're never, ever, ever off. And so, that being said, I loved that part of the job. Like, one of the things I will say is you gotta like people just a little bit, okay? If you don't like people, don't run for office. You just gotta like them a little bit, but But it is one of the things I will say, it is a very time-consuming job. That being said, you will learn a significant amount about your community and about the decision-making process. It's a huge learning curve. It's a fantastic learning opportunity. Do I get paid? I think I touched on that. Yes, you do. And so you'll never be paid if you're good. You will never be paid what you're worth. Just so you know, you can't be in it for the money or the glory, because people will be mad at you. So you have no authority as an individual elected official on your own, and I think that's important to understand. How do I prepare for the campaign? So again, I'm going to suggest that you read some of the planning documents for your community, and that you familiarize yourself with what's already being done, what's already in motion, what's already in process, right? And talk to people. Make sure, if somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, I hear you're running for as an elected official, you've got my support. Get their name and number, because you might need their help and support. So talk to people, though. Find out, what do you think I need to pay attention to? And then the people that are closest to you, have that conversation about what some of the trade-offs might be, what the impact will be to them. I couldn't go out for lunch with my kids or coffee with my kids without being bombarded. A trip to the grocery store it takes a heck of a lot longer than it used to. How do I become a candidate, and who do I talk to? So if you go on your local government website, all of them have information about how to be a candidate, what the paperwork looks like. You meet with the elections officer. They go over the process. They'll go over the paperwork with you, make sure everything's filled out. Because there's so many communities represented here, I won't point out all the staff, but just it's all over the website. The staff have been preparing for this for a long time. They're ready for you. So just so you know. And the last question there, will newly elected officials receive orientation and training? When I was elected in 2002, I was handed the Community Charter and the Local Government Act, which I never read, and told good luck. I would say that it's changed so much. The staff want you to be successful. They are designing orientation programs to help you understand what you're getting yourself into. There's plenty of professional development opportunities. You want to check out when you meet with the elections officer, ask about the dates for training. Ask about the dates for the Local Government Leadership Academy opportunities. So familiarize yourself and make sure that you're prepared to participate in the learning opportunity, because there'll be plenty. And it'll feel like you're drinking from a fire hose, and then eventually it'll start to even out. It won't always feel like that, but it will at first. So expect that. Expect to be overwhelmed for a bit until you familiarize yourself. So don't be shocked by that experience. So a couple inner reflections. Am I prepared for public criticism? Right? Am I prepared to make decisions that's going to make some people happy and some people not so much? And can I work with people that I strongly disagree with, that have different philosophical perspectives? Can I respect a decision that I didn't support? Right? How do I communicate that? Here's the other thing, and I think somebody brought it up as well. Am I willing to read long reports and then ask thoughtful questions? So it's not just about reading, it's doing the intellectual preparation so that you can show up and ask thoughtful, meaningful questions about the decision. Some of those reports, like I said, they represent weeks, they represent months, they can sometimes represent years worth of information that staff have prepared for you. And then, am I willing to make decisions that are unpopular but might be necessary as well? Like, I worked with a community in Nova Scotia that their arena, it was their community hall, actually. It was their community hall, and it needed about $5 million worth of rehabilitation. And it was a tiny little community. And their surrounding communities all had another recreational facility. But this facility had an emotional attachment to it. Somebody got married there. Somebody had their first kiss there, right? And so when the elected officials were like, had to make the difficult, unpopular decision to demolish a community asset that had emotional attachment to it. And one of the things that I suggested, I said, have a closing ceremony, like have some type of surround the building, thank it for its service, do some type of something that allows people to have some closure. And that might sound strange to some, but I think it's a powerful way to say goodbye to an asset that has provided, again, a service. But it was a difficult decision, and it was unpopular until it was understood that this is what we had to do. And it made it so much easier when they had that closure. So, yeah. Yes. Do you have to live in the community that you run in? Nope. I could run for the mayor of Vancouver if I wanted to. And but I couldn't. But I could not vote for myself. I wouldn't be able to vote for myself. So you don't have to live in the, like, it is kind of strange, but you actually don't have to live in the community where you run. So just so you know. You have to be 18 and a Canadian citizen. Do you have to be a BC resident? I thought it was, yes, okay. Oh, for 6 months, that's right. Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah. Sorry. And there is a requirement, and I think every community's bylaws are different. Is that correct? Yeah. Different communities have different bylaws. They also have, many communities have changed the bylaws where you can participate online and participate virtually and not have to be there. Other communities have not adjusted their bylaws, and you have to be present a certain amount of time. So, what's that? Only at the regional district. Yeah, you can have you appoint your alternate at the regional district, and they can fill in for you. You can't do that at the council table. So I mentioned earlier about the code of conduct that we can expect that the province will be passing legislation, and there will be a mandatory code of conduct coming up, and it will be standardized, mandatory. There will be you will be expected to have third-party investigators. There will be sanctions for conduct challenges, and you will have to report as a community the money you've spent on researching, on investigations. So the public will be aware. So this is why it's really important to do the relational work early on as a board and as a council to build those relationships so that you can disagree respectfully, so that you can conduct yourself in a way that's going to lead to good, solid decision making. So. I'm not going to say anything about cameras. Oh. There will be there'll be sanctions based on they'll have sanctions with criteria, and there will be, like I said, third-party investigators that are ensuring that they're not biased. Yeah, so. So here's a couple questions that you might want to chew on for yourself, right? How willing am I to distinguish facts from opinions and stories? That's a big one. Okay? And then it's not just about winning the election, it's about governing with discipline, humility, curiosity, and respect once that campaign is over. So a couple questions to reflective questions to chew on. I wonder if I can just...
Anyone can tell you the benefits of great leaders. Anybody can tell you what it looks like. They can tell you what leadership can do for you. They can tell you how to develop leadership. There's tons of books written on great leaders and leadership. But you won't see, and what you will never see, is people talk about the costs of leadership and costs associated with leadership, I should say. If we truly want to be honest and upfront about leadership, you can't ignore the cost of leadership. Great leaders are willing to accept those costs. And I want to share quickly 3 of those things. 3 of the costs that are plastered on my desk right behind it that kind of caught me between the eyes last week. Number 1, you will have to make hard decisions that negatively affect people you care about. Number 2, you will be disliked despite your best attempt to do the best for the most. And number 3, you will be misunderstood and won't always have the opportunity to defend yourself. Those are 3 costs that come from being a great leader.
No, it isn't. But it is a reminder that you're going to go into this role, and you don't want to have a thick skin, but you do want to have a strong back and an open heart, as Brene Brown said. And go in eyes wide open, knowing that it's going to get crunchy sometime. There is going to be tension. So I think we're due for maybe a little break. Hey, I've got maybe another half an hour, 45 minutes. We could take a break now, or do you want me to keep going? I can't read the room because there's so many of you. Keep going? Okay. All right. I only looked at you guys. You guys okay over there? Okay, awesome. Just checking. And then you can get snacks later. I do want to talk a couple, and this is my asset management lens and hat on, and that is, governance is really about what services do we provide and why, right? What services are we going to need in the future? And then how are we going to fund these services, and how are we going to make sure that they're sustainable? And asking yourself some very, difficult but interesting questions, and making decisions based on those questions. Because if you think about the services that you use today, the services, drove here on the roads, I'm sure you've used all sorts of services today, right? How important is it that those are in decent working order? And that is a key decision for elected officials, is how, if you are the governing body of an organization that provides services, you have assets that provide services, and then you have an obligation to look after the assets that provide services and make decisions on their behalf. This picture here is from my friends in Greenwood, where we did a little asset management project there, and the staff pulled this out of the ground, and it's the greatest gift that anyone's ever given to me. and it's interesting because it is a gift that changed the conversation in the room and allowed us to have a conversation with the residents about this is what's invisible under the ground, and we need to pay attention to it and make decisions to ensure that we're replacing those assets. So I won't say much more about that because I could go on and on, but oops. But one of the things that I will say is that historically, and this is changing, it's changing significantly, but historically we made decisions that are just focused on capital costs, which are approximately 20%, and we've not made decisions about what does it actually cost to really look at what is it to operate, to maintain, and then to replace those assets. And that'll be some of the difficult conversations that you'll have, because your community, like when I was mayor, nobody stopped me on the street and said they wanted less service ever. It was always people wanted more. They wanted more service. They wanted better services, and making sure that you're taking life cycle costing into consideration. This is going to matter not just to candidates, but it's going to matter to citizens. I traveled around Ontario doing asset management workshops, and the things that elected officials were saying to me were, how do I have brave, bold conversations with my community, and how do I tell my community the truth about where we're at? So it's right across the continent. Because you can't cut taxes without cutting services. If you want lower taxes, then you cut services. So if somebody makes a promise to say they're going to lower taxes, you need to ask them, so what services do you plan on cutting? Like, ask them to be honest. Because this might be the level of service that we want, but this might be the level of service that we can afford. But you get to decide, right? That's the decision that gets collectively made. So I'm going to jump through some of these. And I'll go right to the deadly sins here. Okay. So deadly sin number 1, being unprepared to learn. Like I said, do some homework, prepare as a candidate, read some of the documents that already exist, that's already in motion. Attend council meetings, board meetings online or in person. Familiarize yourself with the decision-making process that's already happening, right? And get familiar, because the learning curve is significant, but man, everyone should do time in local government. It's such a rewarding and interesting learning experience. So expect to be a learner. I think I talked enough about this. Don't make any promises or spew catchphrases. I think that we're on to that, right? It doesn't fly anymore. You can't make individual decisions. You are a collective decision-making body. And this goes back to what I said before. You can't cut taxes without cutting services. Number 3, impatient. This is a tough one. Local government works really slow, and it's got layers of legislative complexity to it, and it's quite frustrating. If you're a business owner and you're used to going, do this, go there, make this happen, local government can be quite a surprise, because there is layers of again, bureaucracy that are just baked into the system, and it's there for a reason. I walk around my community now and I go, hey, remember when we rezoned that for multifamily and commercial on the bottom? Oh, it's finally happened 20 years later. Right? So you can make decisions that you're not going to necessarily take credit for. I got to cut ribbons that on projects that I really wasn't part of, and then lots of projects happened because of decisions that we made. So this is why you can't get your ego attached to it. You can't go in it for the glory, because you'll get false glory anyway. So it's a slow-moving machine, and it is for a reason. You are setting the stage for growth and development and prosperity. That's the kind of decisions that you're called to make. Number 4, having a fixed mindset. Again, and I think we talked about this enough, and that is, you want to go in with an open mind, not an empty mind, but an open mind. Be willing to change your mind in the light of new information. You might be opposed to a project or to a planning document, and then once you get behind the table and do a little research, you're like, oh, okay, I now understand why this decision was made. So having a fixed mindset. As a candidate, being a curious learner and being willing to learn how the system goes and being willing to share that you might have a different perspective, and it's okay to have, like, you don't want to have an empty mind, but you don't want to have that fixed mindset. Here's a big one: trying to make everybody happy, right? This is you'll never be able to do that. You will sometimes disappoint your friends and your neighbors. They might be disappointed in decisions that you make, and you're accepting that as a candidate that you're not in it for, you're in it for the long game. You're not in it for the short term. Number 6, I think it's so important as a candidate not to throw, like, people that ran before you and have served, they thought they were making the best decision that they could make at the time. Going in, pointing fingers, blame, shame, finger pointing, it doesn't serve our communities. It creates drama, which can be kind of fun, but once the drama's over, you got to figure out how to work together. So keeping that finger pointing to a minimum. People are doing the best job that they can do, and some of their decisions were good, and some of them not so good. So, and we've talked a little bit about this. Conflict is information. You can expect tension, and you can expect to have different perspectives. If I were to ask you what side of the toilet paper roll you thought that was the right one, some of you would have some very strong opinions, right? Other of you are like, well, that's stupid, I don't care. But sometimes people have really strong opinions either way, and it's like there's no right answer there. So expect polarizing perspectives and learn to wrestle with ideas rather than personalities.
I'm sorry, with that one decision, if you go the wrong way on that, you are a psychopath, just saying.
Fire me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. Good call. Yeah. Yes, some people have very strong opinions on this. Can start. I love this quote: conflict doesn't break organization, but our inabilities to hold complexity and uncertainty. One of the things that you will find is, as an elected official, is that you'll never know everything. You will make decisions and you won't have perfect information. And sometimes if you have a personality that wants certainty and wants simplicity, you'll be disappointed because you're never going to have all the information. Here are some of the common polarities that local governments face during their time. You know, you'll have some people that will run on a perspective of they just want core services. Let's go back to basics. Let's go back to the core. And you'll have other philosophical perspectives. There's like, I want to grow our community. I want more amenities. I want more services. I want more, parks and trails. And neither of them are wrong. It's just a different philosophical perspective. And so you have to figure out a way to have that dialogue around the table. Whoops. And here's another one, and you hear this in elections all the time. We need to listen to the public. We need to engage the public. We need to communicate. Yeah, you do. And communication and engagement slows down efficiency, right? So you'll have some people that's their perspective, right? We need to make a decision and just get her done. And other people have got to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Right? Neither is wrong. But just know that they're two polarizing perspectives. The user pay model versus the public good model. Some people we want a cost recovery. We want cost recovery targets that are high. And others are going to want everything should be free. It should just be public good. So you get to wrestle with who's going to pay. Does the user pay or does everyone pay for the user? That's the again, different philosophical perspectives. Risk management versus innovation. Active social media versus deliberate avoidance, right? You will have some local governments that they'll be like, no, we're not touching social media with a 10-foot pole. And others we want tons of social media and communication. So again, neither of these are, none of these are wrong. It's not about right or wrong, but it is about different perspectives that you'll wrestle with around the table. So that's some of the common ones. Last one, only talk to people that agree with you. It's really, really tempting to live in a bit of a bubble and in a vortex and just kind of hang out with people that agree with you. Figuring out, okay, wait a second. How do I have conversations with people that maybe have completely different perspective than me? So having the courage to have those conversations. So a good candidate is able to express, what's my vision for the community? What am I hoping to accomplish? But more importantly, how will I show up? I commit to learning what the role involves. I commit to listening. I commit to communicating the rationale for why we're doing what we're doing. I commit to committing to character qualities and the kind of person that you will be around the table. I will work with my compadres around the table. I will work with the staff. I'm willing to make difficult decisions. So being curious and talking about what are those character qualities that matter. So, because we've got a lot of yelling going on in our communities, right? There's a lot of finger pointing and yelling, and I think local government is the place where we can build trust. There's an absence of trust in all of our systems. Why can't local government be the one to turn the tide and have better conversations? So. I've got a handout about strategic questions to ask your candidates, like things like, hey, have you been attending board meetings and council meetings, right? So there's a series of questions. I will make sure that gets to the staff, and they can put it online and share those things. But those are good questions to think about when some of you are going to run and some of you aren't. But you want to have some good questions to ask your candidates. Okay. What else are you curious about? Yes. Who determines the number of elected officials in a community, and how do they do that? So I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to actually ask the staff to confirm that. I think every community decides the number of elected officials, and they do that by law. I know in our community we have mayor and 6 councillors, and one of our councillors put forward a motion to reduce the size of council to 5. So we debated that and decided to stick with the 7. But it's set by bylaw, and every community determines that. Part of the rationale for that was because the workload, we wanted to spread out the workload over the 7 rather than the 5. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I was curious because of the community's roles.
Mm-hmm.
You would expect those elected officials to roll with it because the jobs then become more expensive.
So good governance principles, ideally, between 7 and 9. You get higher than 9, it can get a little unwieldy. I know there's regional district boards that are way higher than 9, for sure. Look at Metro Van. But in good governance principles, it is actually between 7 and 9. So, Chris, do you want to finish off? Did I get it right?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yep. Okay. Good. Yes. sorry, and only, okay, you needed 5 and only two run. So, and again, I'm going to get Chris to answer that question.
If there's short candidates,
yeah.
I think the provincial government retains the ability to actually appoint people.
Yeah. Which isn't ideal, just so you know. So encouraging, this actually goes back to what is the atmosphere that you are creating that encourages people to put their name forward in this role, right?
We have a question online, Christine.
Okay, yeah.
So the question is, has talking about climate change become toxic?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. I suppose it depends what circles you're having the conversation in, whether it's become toxic or not.
Do you mind if I jump in and give my answer to it? It's from someone who sat around the table. The polarization of the conversation has become toxic. So I think the idea of someone's right and someone's wrong and not being able to listen and have healthy dialogue has made it toxic, not the actual topic.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah. And you'll find that with a lot of things, actually. Depending on what's going on in the community and what's going on, like years ago, the election topic was economic development, like pretty much all over BC. It was just about economic development. And so that was the focus, and it was very polarizing. And like I said, I think we need to figure out how to have polarizing conversations without making it personal. Anybody else? What else are you curious about?
So how, as a candidate, do you, I don't know, get your message, get your information out there? Like, is there, certainly for provincial elections, people are putting their signs up, there's sort of candidate discussions and like newspaper things. Is the same happening sort of at the municipal level? And presumably there's more candidates in those circumstances. Just a little bit of information on sort of that piece of it would be great.
One of the things that I would say with that is no one thing works, but everything works when you work it. And so use your social media channels, talk to people, be available, have flyers and handouts, have some signs, talk to the elections officer about what the rules are around signage. Different municipalities and different local governments will have different rules around signage. And I would say, and I said this before, don't underestimate the power of one-on-one conversations and personal conversations with people. Be available to different community events to have conversations, participate in the All Candidates Forum. But also let people know, I'll meet with you. I'll meet with your group. I will meet with, I will make myself available to have conversations. Use every opportunity. It's kind of like all the things. The other thing, though, that I would say, and I think I said this earlier, is, when someone says that they will support you, ask them, hey, if I can count on your support, are you willing to help me? Like, are you willing to put out signs? Are you willing to hand out flyers? Are you willing to go door to door? When I was running for mayor, I had a team that kind of came out of, I thought I'd have to do it by myself, but they came out of the woodwork. And they were like, yeah, no, we'll go door to door and we'll talk to people. I love door to door because it gives you an opportunity to, again, educate people and have meaningful conversations. And it's fun. Yes?
Can we get a mic for him? Can we get a mic?
Yeah.
I love microphones. Okay, sorry. So I'm curious about door knocking with teens in municipal elections. So I've worked on federal campaigns and I've worked on provincial campaigns, and it's different, right? Like, especially if you're government is massive. So you have teams and, Fernie and Colton and Cranbrook and whatever. So locally, though, it's like, do you want do I want to go out with 10 people and go door knocking? Or is it better to go out and door knock like with one other person, like with somebody who's taking notes or whatever? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll tell you what I did, which doesn't mean it's the best way to do it, but it's just an idea. I had a team of people, and they went door to door and handed out flyers. Hey, we're supporting Christina. We want to hand out these flyers. She's on the street if you want to come and talk to her, and she's happy to meet with you. And lots of people are like, oh, good, no, I'm going to vote for her, and they took the flyer. So some people want to talk to you, and some people they'll just want to take the flyer. They don't actually want to talk to you. So especially in a small community, you're probably known somewhat already, and but so I liked that idea because it didn't people then weren't forced to talk to me if they didn't want to. Like if they were already gonna vote for me and they didn't really want to have a conversation with me, they didn't have to, right? So it was kind of a nice way to do it. Whereas if you go door to door, then there's oh my gosh, I got to talk to this person, right? So we tried to make it as low impact as possible, and it was effective. So yeah. Any other questions? What else are you curious about? Yes. Hold on 1 second. We're going to get that.
There was a discussion about time, commitment to the job. So I know it'll depend on where the person might be running, but you had mentioned that it's going to take time. But can you provide any feedback as to what that could be?
I don't know if I can give you a definitive amount of time, but what I will say is that, like I said, you'll have meetings. The staff already have the meeting schedule, so take a look at the meetings. Generally speaking, you'll have meetings every 2 weeks. You'll have council meetings, board meetings once a month, but you'll also have committee meetings. You'll be a liaison possibly to different community organizations. So you can expect to attend a lot of meetings, but I think what's also more important than that is preparing for the meetings. You can waste a lot of time by not being prepared for meetings, not having done your homework, not coming prepared, asking questions that have already been answered. I can't give you a definitive amount of time, but there's components of the time, like it's meetings, it is public engagement where you should, as an elected official, be prepared to show up to community events and have conversations with people. You need to be able to set aside time to do the intellectual preparation for the meetings. There is the professional development that's the opportunities that are available to you. There's so for example, the Association of Kootenay Boundary Local Governments, they have their annual meeting every year. You're going to want to be in attendance because you're going to meet other elected officials in your area. So there's different things that are already on the calendar. When you meet with the election staff, take a look at that. But what I really want to emphasize is the intellectual and emotional preparation for meetings. And I don't have an answer for that. Everybody's different when it comes to learning and to digesting.
We have another one from online. Christina, so what do you think of coalitions or running or slates of candidates?
What do I think of coalitions or slates? Again, you're a collective decision-making body. If we move in small communities towards running slates and having expectations of we're all going to vote the same way or think the same way or have the same philosophical perspective, I think our communities need diversity, and we need diverse perspectives, and you need to have that a variety of different ways of seeing the world, and then figure out how to work together and be committed be absolutely committed to figuring out how you're going to make decisions together. So I'm not super keen on that. I can't tell you what to do, but I would be questioning whether, does this mean we all have to vote the same way? Like, how are you going to show up? I don't know. It could be philosophically problematic, I think. Yes.
You had mentioned earlier that municipal governments are the most transparent form of government, and I'd like to see that as part of the candidacy process as well. Do you have any strategies or recommendations to make sure that your candidacy is transparent?
I think the best way to make your candidacy transparent, again, is what are you committed? How are you committed to showing up? And that's a little bit more ethereal in nature, but it's talking about the character that you're going to bring to the role. I think it's disingenuous to make promises that you can't keep, or to speak about things that when you don't know, when you don't have enough information. So I think committing to learning how to do the job is probably the most transparent way that you can communicate. I think sharing some of here's the philosophical perspective that I'm coming at, that I'd be coming to the table with, and like I said, I'm willing to change my mind. I think being, especially in small communities, being yourself, and being super cautious about what you're committing to in terms of what you're going to do, and focusing how are you going to be. And again, that's not it's not an easy answer. I don't have a linear answer for you. It's very, very much about like how am I going to show up? Committing to working together, committing to be of service, committing to communicating with residents and shareholders, committing to do to learn how to do the job. I think that's your best level of transparency. And also letting people know like things like this is why, finding out like who's on your team, the people that are helping you out, ground truth with them some of your messaging to ensure that it is transparent as possible. Again, I think that's probably the best answer that I can give you, sorry. Because I know sometimes, again, we want a linear response to how do I make sure I do this? And sometimes it's a little more ethereal than in nature. Is that helpful? Anything else?
Just, Christina, while we're waiting for more questions, there was a question around the presentation, and you're going to send it to us as a PDF, and we'll post it on castlegar.ca/election.
Okay. Good, thank you. Anything else? Yes. Yep, I'm coming.
I just like to throw out there, I think there's real value, for me anyways, in candidates that are either informed or learning about all the sectors of a community. So if you look back at like the social planning
that we were all part of at some point years ago. It was such a big deal, and the 7 sectors. I think there's real value in knowing that the people that are sitting at our government, local government, have at least a bit of knowledge in all of those sectors. Okay. And I think having a good, have a good knowledge of your community. Talk to people, right? Find out what's going on in your community and what people care about. Like I said, you got to like people. Anything else? A little bit. You got to like people a little bit. All right. Wow. West Kootenays, you guys are awesome. So as we close tonight, I hope you've got some things to chew on, and I hope that you came away with a few thoughts again. That it's simple but not easy. That it is also, it's a complex role, but it's an honor, and it's such a joy. I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself as an elected official. And I want to leave you with something fun to close, if that's okay. And I need your help. And then you can have a snack. Okay. No, we're not going to do the Macarena. All right. We're going to close with a song about taking care of business, because that's what local government's all about. And I need you to help me. I know you think it's boring, but the numbers are soaring. The deficit ain't going away. You think you're getting hosed because you still drive on the roads, but you're gonna have to fix them someday. You can't just defer and only do what you prefer. The sewer needs to handle the flush. Your kids will be annoyed if the water's null and void. They'll wonder why you didn't rush. Okay, everybody, taking care of business every day. Taking care of business. That's what local government does. Taking care of business. It's all right. Taking care of business. It won't happen overnight. Come on. All right. Couple more verses. Hang in there. And then you can get some cookies. The keyboard warriors are busy putting people in a tizzy. They like to work at nothing all day. The frontline folks are begging because the assets are a-fraying and nobody is willing to pay. You better stop behaving because the climate is changing. Don't bury your head in the sand. If the arena roof is baking, if you think that staff is faking, better listen up again and again. Last time, taking care of business every day. Taking care of business in every way. Taking care of business, it's all right. Taking care of business, it won't happen overnight. Come on. Woo! All right. Nice work. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you so much for coming out and participating. Your great questions. Some of them stumped me. They were awesome. I love that. But I wish you more than luck, and I wish you all the best. And thank you for thinking about your community in the way that you are. And I hope that this was, hope you got what you came for. So, yeah, thank you. All right, so there's cookies and fruit and some drinks. Please help yourself, and we'll hopefully see you again.